Sivan, Shir Klali, Atopshin Sameches, Parshas Shalach.
Right. So turning to the beginning of this week's Parsha Shalach. V'yitav Hashem el Moshe leimer, Shalach lecho anoshim. You must send literally for yourself people or mention for your suru, and they should spy out the Eretz Canaan. Asher ani noisein l'fnei Yisrael, which I am giving to the Jewish people. Ish echad lemate aveisal. There should be one personage for each of the tribes, and it should be the tribe Tzadayah mitzad the forefathers. Tishlachu koil nosivohem. Each one of them should be a nosi or a leader in the tribe. Vayishlach le'ishom Moshe mimidbar Paran. Moshe sent them from the place called Midbar Paran, al pi Hashem, according to the Rebishter, and kulam anoshim. They were taki all anoshim, like it was given the commandment that they should be anoshim. Roshei v'nei Yisrael Heima, and the leaders of the Jewish people. And then we find that all their names are given. And when it came to Yeshua, then Moshe Rabbeinu changed his name, and instead of calling him Hoshea ben Nun, he called him Yeshua. And then the Meraglim, they go off to Eretz Yisrael, and they come back with a report. They come back and they make a whole description of what they saw, and then there's a very tragic and terrible reaction to that on the part of the whole Ada of the Jewish people, and it involves eventually the Gezerah from Hashem that the Yidden must remain, all of them in the desert for 40 years, until the whole generation represented by the Meraglim would pass away from the world. So you see, it's a very mind-boggling and very sobering inyan, the outcome of what happened with the Meraglim. So we have to try and be explaining what was the pitch line, as they call it in English. What was the nakuda, and what was the point where everything went wrong? Where did it all sort of get off the nakuda amitias that was obviously meant in the whole thing? Because we see that it was al pi Hashem. It's of course Moshe Rabbeinu sent Midbar Paran al pi Hashem, so that it was according in some way to the rulings of the al pi Hashem, according to the mouth literally of Hashem. So we need to try and find and be inquire and reflect into the whole Indian and try and reach what we described as the Nakuda Emtsoyes. Says Rashi, Shlach lecho anoshim, in quoting the Medrash of the Medrash Rabbah, Bamidbar Rabbah, and here we made up for about the third time consecutively in these classes, or maybe even the fourth time, that we meet up with something that's claimed by the great Mefoshim to be rare in Rashi, but we've already met it about 4 times or 3 times already, so it's not all that tremendously rare. Shlach lecho anoshim, Lama, says Rashi, Nismacho Parshas Meraglim, Parshas Miriam. Why is it that this parsha of the spies is put near and immediately follows the parsha of Miriam? Now the parsha of Miriam is the kavanah, what happened at the end of last week's parsha, that Miriam spoke unpraisedly in a way against her brother Moshe Rabbeinu to Aaron, and the Eivshter brought on her a punishment which is often given to those who are Balei Lashon Hara, those who speak improper opinions about other people, and she was punished with Nega Hatzorah till such time that he didn't have to wait 7 days until she was able to come in again to the Machaneh with the whole Harichas Advarim, and Moshe Rabbeinu prayed specially for her. So that's the parsha of Miriam. So Rashi says, why was this parsha Shalach Lecho, the sending the Meraglim by Moshe Rabbeinu, put immediately alongside that story of Miriam? Lefi, so he offers an answer, Rashi, because Shalach saw al iske dibor shedibro be'achio, because Miriam was punished. Lokasah, she got smitten or punished al iske dibor, through matters of being busy, literally busying herself with reports. Iske dibor, bi'achia, in reference to her brother Moshe Rabbeinu. Now that expression is very interesting in Rashi. Rashi doesn't say Lashon Hara. He could have said, she spoke improper reports against her brother, but he doesn't say that. Rashi said she was punished because of Iske Dibor, being busy with what you might call reports, or acting actively in reports. Iske Dibor. V'Rishoim Halolu, and these evil people, referring to the Meraglim, Ra'u, they saw what happened to Miriam because she was misazik Iske Dibor. V'Loi Lachu Musa, they didn't learn Musa. They should have learned Musa. To put it in the old English, they should have learned the moral, which comes out of it. Or as it's called in Lashon Kodesh, the Musa Haskel. The proper Musa understanding is supposed to learn from something that you were punished or you were brought to was brought to your attention that did done improperly, then you're supposed to learn from that. That's called Lokachas Musa. So here these Meraglim, they must have seen that happen because everybody had to wait for Miriam. 7 days. Everybody knew what had happened because written that they couldn't travel until she had been brought back into the Machaneh. So no doubt everybody, particularly the leaders of the tribes, these guys were all leaders of tribes, no doubt everybody was saying, what happened with Miriam? Was it a Shama that happened over there? And so everybody came to the realization, they saw with their eyes that she was punished and kept out of the camp because she said certain things about Moshe Rabbeinu. But it's very interesting. The Rashi calls it Iske Dibor. Not Dibur, but Dibor with a Hey. Dibor. So now we need to understand, what is this Dibor? What sort of a word is that? And why did Rashi say that they were Iske Dibor? They were like, being busy with this Dibor thing. So you guys, no doubt, I don't know if you do, but maybe if you'll be reminded, you will. If you go back to the story of Yosef HaTzadik, with his brothers, right at the beginning of Parsha Vayeshev, when we meet up with the context between Yosef when he was young and his brothers. So does anybody remember what's written over there? No, nobody. Well, I was maybe being, over optimistic that somebody would maybe remember some things. that it's written over there that Vayove Yosef es dibosom ro'o el avihem, that Yosef brought bad report or bad lashon hara to his father about his brother. And that's how they became upset with him. And it's written that lo yochlu daver l'shalayim, they couldn't talk with him in a peaceful way. As it's brought over there in the positive, we see the word dibosom ra. They're evil dibor. So if we look up over there, but we don't have to look up over there because Rashi says the same thing here a little bit further on in this parasha, but we'll soon see that in a minute. So Rashi said over there, what does this word dibor mean? So therefore some people learn, some translators will say that the word dibor, the hey, means slander. Adequate, improper implications that you say about another person. What they call nowadays, they can have you up for in the courts, what do they call it? Slander or something. What do they call it? If you think that somebody has insulted you or said the wrong thing about you in public, you can have him up for slander. So they say that that's what the word dibor means. So ask yourself the question on the part of the simple, intelligent reader, if dibor anyway means an improper thing, why does it have to be written over there that Yosef brought dibosom ro'o? He brought their bad dibur to their father. I mean, dibur anyway means a slander, not a nice thing. So therefore comes along over there Rashi, and he learns differently in a lot of great maforshim. And Rashi says that the word dibur does not mean ra in its own right. No, the word dibur means, and he says over there a French word, Rav. Look at it as one of these very what he called slightly maddening or slightly frustrating. Where Rashi says that an old French word, and he said that's what dibor means. So that doesn't help you a great deal if you don't know old French or whatever. You may not know exactly how Rashi's helped you with that. Unfortunately, over there Rashi goes on, and when he's finished saying in the pasuk, then he goes back to the word dibor and he quotes it out again. And he said the word dibur is from the word brought down in Shir HaShirim, that there's a word doivev, sifsei yeshenim, or doivev means like to move the lips, to speak, to give over a speaking report or to say something. Doivev slotai. It means literally to make your lips move in a way that you give over some sort of an opinion or a report. That's what Rashi said over there. What the fear is that the word dibor doesn't necessarily mean something bad or evil. It just means a report, giving over information or stating some facts, but they form, a situation whereby you judge yourself which way it is. So in the case of Yosef, he brought all sorts of rather apparently rather slightly unpleasant things about his brothers, the younger, so therefore it obviously means over there not such good things, and therefore had to be put in the word evil. It was not good dibur. In other words, the dibur is not necessarily evil in its own right, and over there it wasn't so good, and therefore had to be put in dibosom ro'o. So over here Rashi does exactly the same thing for us in this parasha. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the pasuk now, but there's a pasuk in this parasha right after everything has happened, and after all the terrible things that the Abishah said later about the everything that happened. So then the Abishah punished the Yidden that they would have to stay in the Midbar 40 years with a whole Inen, and then it's written in Pasuk Amud Zayin in chapter Yud Dalet. If anybody's interested in looking it up, it's written over there, Vayomusu Ha'anoshim, the people who were Moichiei Dibas Ha'oretz, or those that they brought back the report of the Oretz Ro'or, but it was an evil report. Dibas Ha'oretz Ro'or. So once again we see that if we want to imply that the word dibur is bad, then we have to write in bad. We have to write in the word bad, otherwise dibur itself doesn't necessarily mean bad. And so over there, take a look. It's the most amazing thing. Rashi says over there on the word dibur, and look at that, see if you can translate that. I haven't the faintest idea what it means.
What?
He says an old French word, put it as something or other, belaz. Belaz means in Goische Sprach. Yeah, that's what Rashi says over there. So it doesn't really help you a great deal. But if you look in the previous Rashi before that, where he's not talking openly about the word dibur, so then
in French it means to go over, to re-speak it.
Well, in my Chumash it's not translated, Maisha, but in another Chumash I have upstairs, it's translated in Yiddish, Bareiden. It's written in Yiddish, in Old Yiddish. And Bareiden means to talk, to say, to talk about something. So anyway, but if we look in the previous Rashi, where he's not talking openly about the word dibur, then take a look at what he says, Rashi. So Rashi says, Kol hoitzos dibur, any form of bringing out dibur, eloshen chinuk devorim. Rashi says that it's a persuasive type of thing, chinuk. So chinuk means education. But what chinuk devorim means is that when you talk to somebody, you've got an aim. You want to shape his mind the way you are. In other words, you want to make him think your way. So that's what's called chinuk. Chinuk devarim. Says Rashi, shemalkichim l'shoinam la'odam. That you smooth your tongue to a person. Well, malkichim means that you know how to talk. You have what's called in the old English the gift of the gab. That's already been too old English for you guys, particularly Americans. I don't think none of the old Anglo-Saxon slang. There's the gift of the gab. What the gift of the gab means that you have the ability to say something very smoothly and powerfully, and people who hear it are impressed. That's called malchichim as a dibur. So the Rashi said that's what the word dibur means. The word dibur with a hey means you know how to talk. You have that gift of the ability to give over a convicting and a convincing report or opinion to somebody, and he hears it. So there where Rashi said, L'daber boy, to speak to him, now that's what he quoted over there by Yosef. That means to literally move the lips of the how do you call it, the ones who are sleeping. In other words, you can talk so well that you wake people up and make them realize what you're saying is very good, because they're slumbering away, but you make them realize. So Rashi said, V'yeshno l'toivo, v'yeshno l'ra, dibur, a report, and a convicting speech of that sort can be both to good and it can be also for not good. V'loka, emakan, and there was written here, moitziei dibas ha-oretz ro'o. They bring those who brought out the report about Eretz Yisrael, bad report. Because dibur can mean a convicting, good, persuasive conversation, but it can be l'teva or ra. In this particular case, it was for evil. Sheyesh dibur shehu teva. The dibur can also be good. Now, with that, Rashi's taking a point, because there's a lot of great Meforshim who don't agree with that. And they say that the word dibur with a hey, automatically implies slander. It implies something not good. So I should say no, the word dibur itself is a statement whereby you say something, albeit with an aim, but you say it convincingly. You say it in a good way, and you have a good gift of speech, and you give it over. That's called dibur. So people become impressed by what they hear. So that can be either l'teva or l'ra. So we see then that Rashi learns that the word dibur But a hey is a form of a well-prepared, convincing picture or statement that you make and give about something that you are convinced about, and you have about it certain opinions and certain ways of looking at it, and that's how you try to give it over to the other person. So now we'll understand what happened over here with Miriam and with Moshe Rabbeinu and Tazeh. Rashi says that was SHK Dibor. It was being busy and making a whole act of fabrication of a dibor, because dibor itself can be l'tei l'ra. The word dibor is not necessarily a bad thing. But Aaron and Miriam, or particularly Miriam, she was Isaac in what's called SHK Dibor. Now that's why some people eventually want to get to the point that it was like Lashon Hara, because the Alter Rebbe brings in Shulchan Aruch that there's different isurim in speech, different forbidden speech, what they go around the whole general concept of Lashon Hara. But the interesting thing is that the Alter Rebbe says over there that the emissary in a Lashon Hara is darker when you tell the correct information. Yeah, you say correct things, you say it in such a way that it'll be sort of not well assumed by the hearers towards the person. In other words, you say, oh yes, he does this and this. You see, in other words, isn't that not good? And so on and so forth. Meaning that you don't say wrong, because Rashi said, if you say sheker, mamish, absolute false things about a person, then you're called moichi shemra. You're called bringing out an evil name. It's not Lashon Hara. I mean, it's all in the general field of Lashon Hara, but it's not emes of Lashon Hara. It's called moichi shemra. So therefore, some people said that really what happened with Miriam was that she spoke Lashon Hara, because she said what she said was true about Moshe Rabbeinu. What she tried to say about Moshe Rabbeinu in effect the case. But Rashi says the problem was with Miriam that she made a Ashik out of it. She made a whole business out of this thing and a whole interpretation, and she gave it over to her brother Aaron in a very convincing way. And that's what Rashi says, Malkichim, you know how to give it over. And that would be understandable also when I get to Yosef HaTzadik, because Yosef HaTzadik was a very impressive individual, and when he was young, no doubt, he also had those gifts, so he was able to tell his father, in a way that young Avinu was, heard all these inyanim, and he was impressed, not necessarily in a good way, maybe, but he was impressed. He heard the whole thing. So therefore, Rashi is careful to say that Miriam didn't openly talk Lashon Hara. She made a union out of a dibur. She was SHK Dibor. That's very fascinating. If you look at it carefully. So what did Miriam do? She took facts, but nobody could deny the fact, and Moshe Rabbeinu himself didn't deny the fact. And the Eibushter didn't deny them. They were facts. But Miriam said he had no right to do this, and it's not right, etc., and it shouldn't be done. And they didn't realize, well, they could have realized, if they'd only thought about it very deeply, that Moshe Rabbeinu was right. He was 100% right for taking action on the basis of his situation, as Rashi explains over there in detail. Well, I don't doubt you learned it all in the Chittas, so you're all familiar with the whole Indian in detail, so there's no point going into the whole thing. So we see from that there can be what Rashi calls SHK Dibor. That you make a whole interpretation in facts, what nobody really denies the fact, and you make out of it a case which can come out into not a positive way, legabi the person about whom the facts happen to be the truth. And that's not mamish Lashon Hara. Because Lashon Hara is where you say, in order to damage the person, mamish, directly, you say, oh, you see, he does this, you know that, yes, everybody admits that's true, isn't that? Yeah, and over the whole idea to damage the person. That's Lashon Hara, but Harogya. Over here, Miriam didn't want Dafka to damage her brother. She wanted to sort of put him right in a way, to correct Kaviyachol, Moshe Rabbeinu, or somehow or another to get Aaron to impress him that he wasn't acting in a right way. And that wasn't really the case. So for Rashi, it wasn't Lashon Hara, it was Iskei Dibor. Very amazing thing. So ask yourself the Shaila, what's the question here? Why did Rashi say Loma Nishma Chozela? I mean, I can just avoid that, but I can see that everybody's so thirsty to know what it's about. But therefore, how could I do that? But anyway, whatever. It is of interest. We've already met several times. The Rashi says Loma Nishma Chozela. Then we've explained the question. I mean, that's the way the Torah wrote it. I mean, you can ask on every pasuk that deals with another matter. Why is this put alongside? I mean, the Mishnah wrote the Torah. He gave it to Moshe Rabbeinu. We can't possibly know all of his reasons. And therefore, what's the point of asking? Loma Nishma Chozela? Elamai, there must be something which is very sort of asks itself to ask that question. Why would that be right alongside that? So that leads us to a very interesting thing. When I get to the whole Sefer Bamidbar, have you ever looked at the whole Sefer? Take a look at the whole Sefer Bamidbar. It's a very interesting Sefer. It doesn't seem really to have any real, sort of connections. It's just all the main mitzvahs, which are shot to all the generations, were given in Shmois and Vayikra. There's the Rambam. And the number of mitzvahs which are really for all the generations here in Bamidbar are very few. They're very small number. And the whole Pasha Bamidbar is all about counting the Yidden, for example, with counting it, but interesting, what's it all about? And Pasha Nosei, further counting, all sorts of amazing things about the Mishkan. But the Mishkan was only for the time they were in the desert, and then all these amazing korbanos that the Nasiim offered for the Chanukah, the initiation of the Mishkan, Shalom Aleichem, initiation of the Mishkan. I said a gewaldige Sache, but it didn't go for all the generations to come, and it's one on it. That's the famous Shaila, what the Rebbe asked in the famous Sikha, but not that everybody the Shaila already occurred to them. That if we say that the Nasiim wasn't L'Doiros and the Mishkan for sure wasn't L'Doiros, then why is it that during the days of Nisan we read the Nasi? What everybody hopefully remembers, that during Nisan, at the beginning he read the Nasi every day. Did you? And he even say Ayi Ratzah after having read the Nasi. So the Rebbe said that's only just for the moment. And every Nisan we read each of the Nasiim, we say Ayi Ratzah, or the whole big thing. But anyway, that's already the kasha. But before you get to the kasha, it's not really shot to the generations to. It's not shot to the generations to come. And then the same thing with all the we hear about these spies and this terrible thing that happened. And we hear Koirach next week's part. That comes along a Maisa with Koirach. Then we have another Maisa with the how do you call it, the Paraduma. So I mean, the Paraduma could have been mentioned in all the dinim of the korbanos over there in Sefer Vayikra. And then a pasha with Balak, with Bilam, a whole big story about Bilam. So it's very fascinating, but Ma'anav Kamina. And therefore some people say it's almost like a sefer in its own, Bilam. It doesn't really have to do a great deal. And that's the way it goes. Pinchas, a whole story about Pinchas, and then the Matis and the Jews, and then dividing up Eretz Yisrael. So we see the whole Sefer Bamidbar, the Ramban, it's not me who says it, but Ramban says at the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar that it's a very rare Sefer Bamidbar, in that it doesn't really deal with what the Torah up till now has dealt with, and it deals with a whole series of stories and inyanim that happened to the Yidden. Where? Bamidbar, when they were in the desert. And the whole Sefer is called Bamidbar, according to the SHK project, not just because it happens to be the second word in the Parsha, or the first Parsha, but it's called Bamidbar, as they say the Rambam. Amamel come to says the Ramban that it's a very rare sefer that it doesn't really have a tremendous kesher, not with Sefer Vayikra and not with Sefer Dvarim, because Sefer Dvarim is when Moshe Rabbeinu is already repeating the whole mitzvahs of the Torah, plus other inyan that he sees right to repeat Moshe Rabbeinu. In a way, Lefi said Pasha Sefer Bamitu is a very rare sefer. These are the Ramban at the beginning. He writes a whole piece about it at the beginning. And Lefi said Kumto is that the boy who was learned what the Rebbe calls him, the Ben Chomish Lamikra, the 5-year-old boy who's just learning Chumash, he's already learned at the beginning. Well, I don't know if he learned the Ramban because he learned Rashi, but I don't know if he learned the Ramban, but he's already began to pick up the line that this Sefer Bar Mitzvah deals with all sorts of amazing things, that don't really seem to have a tremendous connection with the whole inyan of giving it a mitzvahs and the whole inyan of Gilui at Mount Sinai with their own. So there's a whole series of interesting. I mean, Pasha Balois got the same. Like we saw, the lighting of the lights doesn't really have anything to do. Therefore, Rashi said, "Long an inch, but what's it doing?" And if the Ben Chomish Lamikra, he says to his Malamed, he said, "Look here, there's all sorts of stories here in Bamidbar. Next week there's going to be Korach, there's going to be somebody else, there's going to be here. Why all of a sudden did we put this one here right alongside here?" Well, you might say, well, that happened before all the others. But we've already been told, Rashi's already told me on 2 or 3 occasions, that Ein Mukdam Umiyucha Torah. There's no real temporal following, even in the parts of the Torah where it looks as if there is. There's not. There's no real adequate chronological order in the Torah. Therefore, Rashi can't really tell you that. He can't really say that. And there's an amazing thing here, which that's very, very fascinating and quite of interest, I mean, to the intelligent reader. But the Maral Miprag, he has here a big, long pilpul about the fact that Rashi asked this question, and he wants to prove that really the story with Korach happened before the story with the Meraglim. And the story with Korach happened at the time of Miriam talking against Moshe Rabbeinu, or that in Mamish in the same period and the same time. That's what happened in the story with Korach. And it's only because Ein Muktam or Milcha B'Torah, Korach's really written in the Torah. Now I want to challenge you guys. Let's see if you guys have really got your if you're really worth your shirts. Does anybody have an indication that he would say, yes, I got an idea that Korach was before the Meraglim? Anybody? Because it's written in a Medrash, and the Maral Miprag makes a whole big deal about it. He says, oh, that's why Rashi said, why was this before Korach? And but you've got to be a big London to get into that. And you've got to know that there's a Medrash, you've got to know a hin and a her. So therefore it's a little difficult for her to learn it the Maral Miprag's way. But maybe we could time her that so I'll give away part of it. If the Ben Chomish Lamikra says Tehillim, which he probably does, if he's a Chabad Ben Chomish Lamikra, he says Shir Tehillim every day, then he would probably have the kasha. So that stuff you have to wander all over the world. You can at least focus yourselves in Sefer Tehillim. So I don't know if you guys are Chassidish Bochum, but a Chassidish Bochum, every day he says the Rebbe's Kapitel. Do you guys do that?
Yeah.
They should. Every day you say the Rebbe's Kapitel. So the present Kapitel of the Rebbe is Kuf Zayin. But the one up just before that we were saying the whole time before the Yud Aleph Nis was Kuf Vav. So if you're looking at Kuf Vav, it tells a whole series of things about what happened in the Delia, things that weren't good, that shouldn't have happened. And it mentions over there, look carefully, it used to always jump out and hit me in the nose whenever I said that it was Kapitel. It mentions the whole thing with Korach, and then later it mentions the Indian of the Meraglim. Take a look and you'll see. Now you guys just with Kabbalah Sel, you say all the Pesukim, and you don't really remember from one day to the other what you say, which is in a way a great tribute to, because it's a sign of how much Kabbalah Sel you really have. But anyway, whatever, suffice it to say that if you look carefully over there in the Rebbe's Kapitel, which just completed itself, Kapitel Kuf Vav, you'll see it's written Koirach, and then afterwards it's told the story of the Meraglim, how David HaMelech is saying that we must remember all the improper things that we did. So anyway, that's just to keep you guys on your toes. Suffice it to say that Rafi said it's already written that Koirach happened before, so maybe the Ben Chomish Mikveh, you might happen to know that. Maybe. But anyway, the Maral Mipak said that's a kasha. We should have really put Koirach in here. Why did we put in the story of the Meraglim? I mean, you've got to be pretty big London to get that kasha, because not a great deal of people, if you ask them, would say that Koirach was before the Meraglim. They would probably say, well, the Meraglim were probably first. They mentioned the Torah first. Therefore, we have to say that what Rashi's bothered about is Dafki, because Sefer Bamidbar is a whole collection of different idionim in the Torah, which are not really shaykh to the other three Svarim. And if it's not shaykh to Sefer Dvarim, they're like a whole thing in the middle. Even when you were free, you could have chewed, you could have moved yourself around, you could have quite easily told the story of Korah before the story of, and maybe there were good reasons to do that. If you wanted to ask me, I might be able to come up with a couple of good reasons why it would be good to tell the story of Korah before the Meraglim, but I'm not going to do it right at this moment. So everybody said, where are we getting with all that? So the Indian is that Rashi nonetheless says, based on the fact, like the Ramban says, that Sefer is a very special Sefer. And therefore Rashi says, why is it that we saw right to place this whole story with the Meraglim right alongside the story with Miriam? We were quite free to do what we liked. We could have put it later in the book, and nothing would really have happened, because that's Sefer Bamidbar. That's what it's like. I feel without the klal of Ein Mukdam Amiyucha B'Torah. And afar Rashi said to Lechera in Pashtus, Doimani, that's what Rashi's after. Therefore he says, no, Miriam, she spoke Iskei Dibor against Moshe Rabbeinu. Well, these guys, they saw that happen, and they didn't take Musa from that, and they went ahead and did exactly the same thing. In other words, that they said Iskei Dibor. Well, they involved themselves. They got working with Iskei Dibor. Now that would tend to indicate that really the Meraglim didn't say a whole lot of bluff. And they didn't say a whole lot of things that were just, how do you call it, face what? A whole mishmash of sheker and kozov in order to be mamal diyid. Now maybe with that Rashi's hinting that they were very persuasive, but they were nasim, they were big people, they knew how to speak to their members of their tribes. And we have to say that they worked on a whole shitta, which is called Iskei Dibor. In other words, that they took certain facts and they put them over in such a way that you could learn them either Hazoi or Hazoi, and they were, for some Indian, some reason, they were interested that they should learn them Hazoi. But the way it was given, a lot dafki that you had to learn it, believe in God, bad way. And that's what Rashi says. Dibor can be gam l'teva. It doesn't have to be only bad. But if you busy yourself with Dibor, you become a whole engineer of how you give over your reports and how you say it, how you talk, then you get involved in Iskei Dibor, and that's not Kidai. Oh, that's an issue. And that was the whole thing that you should have seen. That's what happened with Miriam. Gibukuk, what happened with her. You should have taken Musa. So what's it, the Musa? That comes along, Rashi said this whole thing with Moshe Rabbeinu, that he was the one who sent the Meraglim. And the Pharaoh says, Rashi, Shlach lecho, you must send for yourself literally, or send for you the Meraglim. So everybody asks the question, why did it have to be written Shlach lecho? What does it say? Shlach lecha. So, does anybody else remember? Does anybody remember another place in the Torah where it occurred the word lecha alongside a verb? Very nice. Lech lecha. That David said to Avraham Avinu, lech lecha. In other words, sometimes we find that we have an imperative of a verb, and we're trying to tell somebody to do an action which is a verb, and we tell him by way of making it, as it were, reacting to himself. We say, lech lecha. In our particular case here, shlach lecha. So what did Rashi say over there? Rashi's interested to know over there by Avraham Avinu. He's interested to know what's the lecha doing there. No. Any takers? So what we're going to do with you guys is we're going to get you to remember your chittas. You're going to learn your chittas and try and remember. So what does Rashi say over there? Rashi says over there, lech lecha, says Rashi, l'toivoscha ulahana oscha. Lecha means that you're going to go, this is going to be for your benefit. It's going to ultimately be a big thing for you, because I'm going to make you increase, you're going to have children, and here you don't have children, and you're going to have a big name, and everybody throughout the world is going to praise you. A whole series of inyonim, what Rashi brings over there at the beginning of Parsha, lech lecha. Ad kedikach, that some people want to say that Rashi is also hinting at that here, and that when David said to Moshe ben shlach lecha, he meant this was also for your, to you as your benefit. But he didn't write that mafurish here, Rashi. But they say that that's also included in the pshat. But I don't want to get you guys too complicated, because we're complicated enough as it is, particularly that we're still, in some delicate way, we're still drinking the drink that these Meraglim sold the Klal Yisrael. So we need to sort of try and figure out what the heck. So therefore comes along Rashi and he says, what does it mean, shlach lecha, send for you? And he says, l'datcha, according to your opinion. You do it according to your opinion. Ani eni mitzaveh lecha. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not commanding you to send these guys. Im tiltze, if you should want, shlach. If you should want Moshe Rabbeinu, send them. If you don't want, don't send them. But if you do, then send them. Lefi, why would Moshe Rabbeinu be in such a situation that he might want to send Meraglim? Well, why on earth would he want to do that? Moshe Rabbeinu, he knew for sure, and it was clear to Moshe Rabbeinu that Moshe Rabbeinu had any doubt that obviously it was good that everybody going to Eretz Yisrael. Well, and it was immediately going to have to happen. What would Moshe Rabbeinu have any idea that he would want to send Meraglim? Adafa, says Rashi, apili digizah. Lefi shebo Yisrael, all the Jewish people came to Moshe Rabbeinu. Forget the Meraglim. All the Jewish people came. V'omru, and they said, Nishlako anoshim lifa neinu. And they said, let us send people in front of us into Eretz Yisrael. Well, now this is an amazing fact where Rashi does this very rarely. That Rashi sends you over to a pasuk that the Ben Chumash Lemikra he hasn't learned for sure yet. He's going piece by piece. He's only just near the beginning of Bamidbar. That's way over in Devarim. Rarely does Rashi do that. Rashi only assumes that you know about psukim which you've been up to. Oh, it's very rare that Rashi sends you over to a pasuk that you haven't learned yet. He tells you about it. But that's what he does here. He said because all the Yidden came, and if you look up over there, right at the beginning of Sefer Dvarim, Mamish, right near the beginning, Moshe Rabbeinu tells over, and he really, he shakes the Yidden out for it. He tells them that they did a terrible thing, and they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, let's send people in front of it. Kemoshe Ne'ema, like it's written, V'tikruvun Elai kulchem, that all of the Jewish people came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they said, Nishlacha anoshim lefa. Lefaneinu. Just to imagine that you guys would remember what Rashi said about that, that would already be two audacious. But if you take a look over there in Devarim, what does Rashi say about Vatikru Huna Elai Kulchem? All of you came to me. Now that means all the Jewish people, everybody, the Yidden came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they said to him, listen here, we don't want this Israel business without Nishlecha Anoshim Lefaneinu. Do it. Says Rashi over there, what is this business that all of you came to me? So look over there and you'll see that Rashi says that all the Jewish people pushed to talk with Moshe Rabbeinu. They all came, and Rashi says, not Lafia Seder, that they weren't Mechabed, the Zakanim and the young people pushed the middle people pushed the old people, and everybody stooped and acted discourteously and improperly in order to get up close to Moshe Rabbeinu and say to him, listen here man, Nishlecha Anoshim Lefaneinu. And that's all the Yidden, not the Meraglim, not important peoples, not Echezvus, no, all the Jews came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, listen, we can't do this, we can't possibly go in unless we know what people are going to tell me, what is Eretz Yisrael really all about, otherwise no way we can go in. And the amazing thing is that Rashi brings a support to that from Devarim. So I can't really support my argument unless I go over to the Sefer Devarim. And so what is Moshe Rabbeinu going to do? Here Moshe Rabbeinu knew what the truth, he knew that Eretz Yisrael was Gival, he knew that it's all going to be L'mayla Mi'ateva, and he knew that wondrous things are going to happen. What'd you take his chumash away from him? Maybe if you have his chumash, you won't mess around with a piece of paper, he's messing around with it. Comes out the question, Moshe Rabbeinu is all on his own. He's got the whole Jewish people all stooping to find out from him, will he agree to send people in front of them? Kulchem, everybody. So I couldn't tell you that Moshe Rabbeinu was mamish on his own. Rabbeinu Shalach. Just imagine. Here you got the Nasi Amiti of the whole Jewish people, the greatest Nasi that's ever been, Moshe Rabbeinu. And all of a sudden he sees he's all on his own. He's been hammering into these people, and he's been telling them, and he's had unbelievable Mesilas Nefesh for them, and he's been hacking away at them. And all of a sudden, this is before the 40 years. This is the beginning of the 40 years. And all of a sudden, they all come along and say, oh, no way, Nishlecha Anoshim Lefaneinu. So therefore, what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? Nimla b'shchina. Moshe Rabbeinu had no choice. He had to ask the angel. Nimloch means to take advice. Moshe Rabbeinu said, what can I possibly do? And I said, Matav. So you might say, well, you're the boss. Just tell them to clear out of here. And to say, no, Anoshim, no spies, we're going in there, that's all. He got the whole 600,000 Jewish people against you. I mean, the Moshe Rabbeinu's one man all on his own. Maybe he's got Yeshua. Turns out later, Korev was a pretty, faithful understander of Moshe Rabbeinu. More than that, Moshe Rabbeinu was all on his own. What is he going to do? What's he supposed to do? How would Tzaddik Losov? And if Moshe Rabbeinu has no choice after us, see, he was a nimla v'shchina. He was a what I do in such a situation. Omar, so the Hebrew said to him, Ani amati lohem shehu toiva. I told him it was good. What do you want from me, says the Hebrew. I already told him it was good. What can I do anymore? You want me to stray another 50 times at him? I already told him it was good. And you know that it's good. Shenema, because I said to you, when I was telling you to go and take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, way back at the beginning of Shmois, SHK P Mitzrayim, I'm going to take you up out of the poverty of Egypt into the good and broad and wonderful land. So you already know, and they know, I'm sorry, the Abish says, I know that this is the best possible thing, and I told them, I'm going to take him. Now you come to me and tell them that all of them say that they want to send Anoshim. So therefore it says, the Abish Chayeyim, that's a way of saying by, it's a way of saying by their lives, Shani Noisein Lahem Mokim Litois. Yeah, I'm going to give them a place to have a mistake. What sort of mistake? B'divrei HaMeraglim. In the words of the Meraglim, Leman lo yirshua, in order that they're not going to get in there. These people. Who's going to get in? Oh, that we'll see later. Who's actually going to get in? This is mamish mind-boggling. That Rashi's saying to me, it's not the union of the Meraglim. The union of the Meraglim is going to be a later result. The whole Jewish people were in the wrong etiquette. They were all running up the wrong street. They were all completely not in the right attitude, and they all pushed and carried on in a way that they themselves knew. That's what Rashi said. They mamish went out of their kelim. And they said, no way, we're going to Eretz Yisrael. Ela im kain, there'll be a ma'aseh mit meraglim. We have to know al pi teva and al pi hanhogas ha'olam what's going on over there with Eretz Yisrael. And then we'll see whether we can go in or not. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he knows an ishtazah. He knows that B'Shumayim it's not like that. And the Eivishter, so you got Moshe Rabbeinu and the Eivishter talking with the talk. What are we supposed to do? So the Eivishter said, you know what? Send them. And I already see, you'll see there's going to be a big brach. But send them. In other words, that the whole sending of the Meraglim was a thing that the Eivishter didn't see any point in the whole thing. And it was the Eivishter and Moshe Rabbeinu. They were alone, Moshe Rabbeinu was alone, and the Eibishter was alone. And the far kumta is that who sent the Meraglim? The Jewish people sent the Meraglim. Moshe Rabbeinu did it because he had no brother. He ever said to him, if you're all alone and they'll lie, who knows what they'll do to you if you don't do something, is send these guys. That these people went, and therefore it's not understood. No matter how you sew up this pasha, you'll never sew it up. It's always got some part that somehow or other doesn't make sense. It's like everything that's not mamish 100% the way Moshe Rabbeinu and the Eivishter want, it'll never really add up. Anyway, whatever. So he says, but therefore he sent them al pia. Well, guys, you sent them al pia Shem. What do you mean to send them according to the Eivishter? The Eivishter said that he doesn't want the whole thing. The whole thing is mistaken. It's a mistake. And therefore Rashi says birshusay. Rashi said he only sent it with the Eivishter's permission. That al pi Hashem doesn't mean here like it normally would mean. Yeah, according to Hashem's commandment or something like that, or according to Hashem's guidance. It only means the Eivishter's permission. There was no other. Yeah, Barela Shaloi Ikev al Yodei, that the Eivishter wouldn't hold him back. But not that the Eivishter really was in favor, or that the Eivishter saw there was a inyan in the Indian of sending them the Meraglim. But now we need to understand what was this that Rashi says that the Eivishter said to Moshe Rabbeinu with no choice left. He said, I'm going to give you a place to them that they're going to have a mistake. B'divrei HaMeraglim. In the words of the Meraglim, I'm going to leave a place that they'll have a blunder. They'll have a mistake in the words of the Meraglim. So it comes along one of the great Meforshei Rashi, what you call not the Chok Yam, not the Yam, I forgot, he calls himself something Yaakov. He comes along and he says, you must be very careful how you learn those words. I'm going to give him a place, litois, to be mistaken, b'divrei HaMeraglim. So you can touch that two ways. You can touch, I'm going to give them a mistake in the words of the Meraglim. In other words, the words of the Meraglim will be what they are, and they'll have a mistake in the words of the Meraglim. They want to understand the Meraglim right. Or you can say, no, I'm giving them a place to make a mistake, b'divrei HaMeraglim, through the words of the Meraglim. In other words, they'll make the same mistake as the Meraglim. Comes along the Kachman, who is it, the Dash Yankiv, or Nachos Yankiv. That's right, the Nachos Yankiv comes again, the Nachos Yankiv, we said, don't learn Rashi that they'll have a mistake in the words of the Meraglim. They won't understand the Meraglim, they'll get them wrong. No, it means that they'll have a mistake in general through the words of the Meraglim with the Meraglim together. He goes out of his way not to let you learn the first pshat. However, the leaning in Rashi is to learn that it means they're going to have a mistake in the words of the Meraglim, which means that maybe what the Meraglim are going to say is not all that Hadikot Givaldik Ashekir. What they're going to say is what they saw, but the Yidden learned the whole thing the wrong way. And why would they learn the whole thing the wrong way? Because they were right from the beginning in the wrong way. All the Yidden were right from the beginning, not in the right way. And therefore, they wanted to in the far, the Meraglim were really the representatives, not of Moshe Rabbeinu, not of the Eivishter. The Meraglim were the representatives of the Jewish people. And therefore we have to say that deep inside the Meraglim knew that there's something, not altogether glatik about this whole thing. Yeah, to use the expression, it's a little bit smelly, the whole thing. The Ganzerinen, but what can they do that they themselves also held the same way? Because they're also the Jewish people. They also were of the opinion that the whole thing, let's go into this Eretz, was it a tide right now? In fact, they were also the same. However, Rashi says that the famous thing, that this is where it really becomes, the plot begins to thicken. That there's two things Rashi said. First of all, the Moshe called Hoshea Binin Yeshua. And so Rashi said he prayed on him that he shouldn't be caught up in the Artzos Meraglim. Because he came, Moshe Rabbeinu knew that these guys were after something funny. What did he send them for? If he knew they were up to something funny, and therefore he prayed for Yeshua that he should be saved from it. Why do you not pray for Yeshua? Pray for them all. Pray only for Yeshua. A very strange thing. And then also, Rashi says that they were called Anoshim. Rashi said because Kulam Anoshim. So Rashi, whenever you use the word Anoshim in the scripture, it means important people. Important people. And therefore, he said at this particular moment they were Kasherim Oil. And at the moment Moshe Rabbeinu sent them, they were kosher, the Meraglim. They were Ksherim. What happened? When did they become treif? When did they become not good? Matai Zaya. Maybe ask itself to Shach, what does Rashi mean by saying that they were Ksherim? I mean, the word kosher means, it's usable, it's okay. But Rashi could have used a much better word. He could have said they're all big people, they're tzaddikim, or fine people. So why does he say Ksherim? If we look carefully at what happened when the Meraglim went away and when they came back, those things are mukta. You don't even touch them during shit. So, what is going on around here? So, you don't have to worry. Slicha. In what part of Shachar? I don't want to be we're talking about not being Oizu Bishkei Diva. Imam, I come to it that something's funny here, that on they are Kasherim, but Moshe Rabbeinu knew what was happening, but he doesn't. He prayed for Yeshua, Moshe Rabbeinu knew that something was going on. If that was the case, he knew what was happening with all of them. Why did he send them? And then what happens when they come back? What really happens when the Meraglim came back? So we have to say, if you look carefully, when the Meraglim came back, well, they came back and they went to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Aaron. Rashi says they came first off to Moshe Rabbeinu and to Aaron, and they said, yeah, Oretz asher halachnu losur, Eretz, Zovus cholu devash, and it's Eretz toivahi, it's a good land. They made a few statements which were quite good and quite acceptable. They were divreim. So Emes, Rashi says over there, sometimes if you want to really tell a very convincing sheker, then you start saying Emes at the beginning to draw people in. But we see that they said things which were very acceptable. Emes, what they said is right. And then, afterwards, they said that the peoples in the land are very strong. Very, very tough people, very strong. So then the Yidden started to get a little bit, really shaky when they heard that. And then Kolev mixes in, and Kolev says, oh, no, don't listen to that. If the Eivishter wants us, then we can do anything. And then after that, the Meraglim start to get more tough. Then they started to say, listen here, it's a land that eats up its... it's a land that devours its, what do you call it? Its inhabitants. So look over there in Rashi. I don't like moving you from all the Rashis around the place. If you look over there in Rashi, he says an amazing thing. Rashi says that what happened with these Meraglim when they were moving around in Eretz Yisrael, he said they saw a lot of Levias the whole time. They saw there was people burying dead people. And then Rashi says, oh, but the Eivshter did that l'toiva. The Eivshter did that specially, that all sorts of important people amongst these Canaanim and other people who anyway had to die, the Eivshter made that they died all together. Oh man, they were so busy with all these Levites, they didn't have time. There's a whole bunch of 12 big important looking Yidden, they're walking around under their noses. Wouldn't you automatically say, what's going on around here? Who are these guys? What are they doing here? I mean, how big is the whole Eretz Yisrael? I mean, not all that tremendously huge. So the Eivshter made them busy with all these Levias, never. One in the clan. Or the Gemara says in Masechta Seita, and others bring the apart from Rashi, and the Gemara says that Eoiv, you ever heard of Eoiv?
Yeah.
That Eoiv, he was living in Eretz Yisrael at that time, and he fled there because he had a whole problem with Pare. He was one of the big advisors of Pare. But when Pare started off with the Yidden, then he got out. Eoiv fled. He didn't want to say anything, and he fled away, and he got out of the way. And the Eibishter gave him all the Yisurim for that. Rachman in it. In other words, that if you have the right thing to say, then you got to say it. And you shouldn't worry. But anyway, whatever. So the Gemara says in Masechta Seita that all of a sudden the Eibishter made that Eoy passed away on that day, and he was such a huge, important person that the whole of Eretz Canaan, all the people came to the Levaya. So it's all one and the same basic principle. They were busy burying people that didn't allow them to have the attention to pay attention to all these peoples. So therefore, Rashi says that you see here there's like a Dovavi Puche. The Meraglim saw with their eyes that they were burying people and they were too busy to pay any attention to them. But the Eibishter really made that as a good thing. That's really a Torah too. So in other words, that you can understand that in two different ways. And you want to tell me that the Meraglim, they understood it only the first way. They only understood it that they were so busy burying people that they didn't have time to look at them. They said, oh, this must be a crazy place. Everybody's dying the whole time in this place. And that's what they wanted to imply, in a way. But they must have known that wasn't the case. They must have known it was a good thing what's happening. And if I was looking for somebody to say it, I found it. That's one of the great Rishonim. There's a sefer called, it's a very interesting name, it's called Moishav Zakenim, Ala Torah. It's really a collection from the great Rishonim. Therefore it's called Moishav Zakenim. Nowadays you've got to be careful because the word Moishav Zakenim is sometimes a phrase for an old people, so it's not. So anyway, you guys don't appreciate these quips. Whatever. It's a Sefer Moshe Zakenim it's a big collection of different pirushim from the great early period commentators. So I see that the Moshe Zakenim, he brings that from a very early period commentator, one of the Rishonim, that he says, Gaval, what? I mean, they were so silly that they didn't realize that was really Lateva. He said, they deliberately wanted to say it in a way. That's what my Rashi is, Dibor. It all depends how you give over the rapport. It depends how you say it out. You yourself might have your own pure knowledge of the situation, but you say it over in such a way that it'll sort of, boom, it'll clap us eye. And if then it will make very good sense what Rashi says, that really what happened was that the Yidden were, anyway, they were responsible for the whole thing. They'd lost the whole direction. And they sent the Meraglim, and these Meraglim knew that they were representing the Yidden. And therefore they wanted to say it in such a way that it would sort of make sense. They didn't want too much. And all of a sudden they hear that Kolev ben Yefuneh mixes in it. And what did Kolev ben Yefuneh say? He says, that if the Eibishter wants us, in Chofetz Hashem Bono, then we can beat all these, and we just go in there and it'll all fall away in front of us. Now it's an amazing thing. The Alter Rebbe says in a place, the Rebbe's got it in a Maimon, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, the Rebbe said, why do you also say if the Eibishter wants us? Why should we do that? He said, because these guys were all going somehow or another according to Seichel. They were all basing themselves on thinking. They couldn't realize that Yitzias Mitrayim and the whole Indian of Yiddishkeit, which was now being introduced to them, is you've got to go beyond Seichel, you've got to go beyond reasoning. And all those Inyanim Adefar, according to Seichel, this is a huge place with all these big peoples in it, and all sorts of amazing things are happening over there, and so on and so forth. All of a sudden, Kolev said, forget it. He said, we're accepted with the Eibishter, not even for Chofetz. What Chofetz is Pnimis HaRotzen, or Pixidas. Pnimis HaRotzen from the Eibishter. Like we saw the other night in Talmud Bob, Mashu Me'enze. Yeah, they are Kolu B'Atzmus Imami. Over there, anything can happen. Just forget it. Just know that we're going to go in a way which is Chofetz Hashem Bono. We're not going according to the cheshbonos of Seichel, not according to the cheshbonos of what you see or what you can interpret from what you see. Forget it all. Forget all the interpretations. We're going to go in there. L'mayla mitam dua. That's what Kolev said. Ooh, the Meraglim heard that. That is B'diuk there, and they call it the arrow in their heart. That's B'diuk, the arrow in their tummy. That beats their whole game. Yeah, therefore they started talking otherwise, and they started saying, oh no, wait a minute, we can't do it. And if you look afterwards, then they started saying, oh no, we couldn't do this, could we? It's really, and they started, and unfortunately the Yidden bought it because that was what they felt also. They bought it, and it became a huge, tremendous uprising against Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshua, and Kolev. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu had no choice but to ask for Rachamim. Therefore he mentions the famous Indian of what Marumas said, you'd give him as a Rachamim, and they're going to say, Erech HaPayim v'Rav Chesed v'Yemes, Yigdal no Koyach Hashem. Moshe had no choice but to ask for something mamish completely beyond everything. Eibishter hot Rachman is up to Yidden. Hot Rachmanin. Rachmanin itla. Have Rachmanin up to Yidden. What happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu was on his own, the Eibishter was on his own, and the Yidden had the chance to listen to what the Meraglim said, and yet nonetheless to do what Kolev said, to go l'mayla mitam v'das, or to say, no, wait a minute, let's read into the Meraglim, let's understand what they're trying to tell us, and then you have a tourist, b'divrei Meraglim. In other words, the Meraglim told facts, but they told them in a way that you could learn them a slightly wrong way, and you could end up being back into Teva and in Seichel. And that's what Rashi means, that the Eibishter said, you know what, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to fall into a mistake through the words of the Meraglim. In other words, not that the Meraglim are going to say things which are mamish crackers, and they're not going to come and mamish attack me. They're going to say things, and that's what Rashi says, it's dibur iske dibur. It's a very careful way of presenting a case, and you guys are going to buy it, money in it. And if you're going to buy it, and never you're going to sit 40 years, never zusammen Mathe, mit der Tue, mit der Tischebov, mit der Mans. But the Gemara said, Masecta Tiny is that they wept the whole night, and so the Gemara says that caused that particular night was Tisha B'Av. If you work out when they left the Meraglim, when they came back, the day they came back was Tisha B'Av. And the weeping that they wept that night, that became a weeping for all the generations to come. Rahmani Nitlan. The Gemara Masecta Tiny. It's brought down, and the Ramban brings it down on the parasha, Mamash here, in the parasha, Baricha. He talks about Titu and the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, that it was all from that weeping that the people wept after what the Meraglim had done. So Rabbeinu Shalom, it's a very, very mind-boggling. It's a very mind-boggling, very mind-shaking situation. So as is all the Shiloh of East there, why wasn't everybody punished? So the truth is, if you look at it carefully, everybody was punished, because all those people died in the midbar. It's just that the Meraglim, they got a very unpleasant thing that they died through a plague or the whole thing, and the Gemara brings it in the Sekta Seitadot with the whole Richetz. It took several months, it went all the way through to Elul, they didn't do it. But everybody copped it. All the Yidden stayed in the desert, and it's brought down. Tosfos brings it down at the end of Masecta Tainis that every Tisha B'Av people used to go out and dig their graves because they knew they were going to pass away. They knew they're not going to move out of the desert. So, I mean, this is the whole generation of Jewish people just remained in the middle, just stuck there. And they passed away. Because they were behind the whole thing in a way, and the Meraglim played along with them and became like leaders of the whole idea. But basically speaking, they only said what they saw. So ask to show why is that? Why is it a lot of what they said is good, and only when they started to panic that they started to say things which are not good? Because somebody who's a leader of the Jewish people, and he knows Moshe Rabbeinu, he just can't say mamish the opposite of Moshe Rabbeinu. He's just not able to do that. That's just not shayir. He's got an nefesh a vikon time that he can say mamish ha'ipach Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore it's written in Rashi said that they came back says Rashi. They came mamish to Moshe B'Aaron first, because they knew that was their emissary responsibility. And then they said, and that's the emet. And then they said other things which happen. Even when they said that it's a very strong people and they got big cities, that's also emet. Oh, but the truth is that if we're lamayla mitam v'das, and that doesn't bother them. And they said, oh yes, it does. And that's when they saw that Kolev Ben Yefunet came up with the right answer, and he said, lamayla mitam v'das, a complete bittul. Yelarotzin Hashem and Arifah from Chofetz Hashem. Well, then they panic. Here's a guy that's going to break our whole situation. He's going to break our whole hold in the midbar. What I want to present to you now is that that's the pshat, why it is that all this happens in a sefer called Bamidbar. What are the times? The Tafkin Bamidbar, and it's hidden in Rashi Shaila, what he said, Loma Nishmacha, Pasha Zula, Pasha Zula, we were must be mitzati from Bamidbar. In other words, that every area where Yidden are, and every place where they go, and everything that happens to them, is what you call the mentality of that particular place. And there's what you might call the shitta and the inyan of Mokim Tzeh. And so even if you're Kula Manoshim, even if you're kshedim. Yeah, but that's only Pagolui of a Bifnim, Miyudea, what's going on. And therefore Rashi said, SHK Kshedim. They looked good, they seemed to be okay. They did everything which looked alright. But deep inside, Rashi said they were already in an Eitor Raw. They already had the wrong idea. That's what he said. What's the title? When they were already gone? Edifar, we have to say. It's Belimut Schus al Rachlim, Belimut Schus of the Yidden that sent them and they got involved in the whole matter. You have to remember that Yidden were they were 210 years in a place like Mitzrayim. 210 years is a long time. Rashi says not the heck long as what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be 400 years. And it wasn't 400, it was 210. But 210 years is a long time. It was a heck of a lot of time. And they were in Mitzrayim and they were under the Mitzrayim and they were in Aveda Kosher and the whole mass of what is our Golas be Mitzrayim, it's very hard to imagine. Then all of a sudden, miraculously, they get out. I mean, there's unbelievable miracles, boom, boom, boom. And where are they out? Into a desert. they become automatically into some beautiful, adequate Wall Street or something. Yeah, they're out in the desert. So what happened was that they go from one form of a Golas mentality into another Golas mentality, but albeit a slightly higher one. And that is, that when they were in Mitzrayim, they saw that that if unless you have some sort of a power in Elam Hazeh, that you're a miskin. Unless you really are nob, with power, and you really have a good way, and you have money, and you have power, and all the good tzachim, then it happens to like it happened to them. They were such a spiritual people, and all those things. But the Mitzrayim trot them around and caused them all sorts of shibudim and chores and all sorts of matters. And it's brought down that's the avodim hoyinu lepare, that we were never avodim. And in Pnimis Atvorim, that means you become bottled a bit to the whole matter of what it means to be a Mitzrayim, don't you? You have to remember one thing. It could be that you're as long as you're a boy and you learn how you always got to listen to somebody who's a bit older. It's one big cloud. And it's one cloud that I always took on myself when I was young. I always used to listen to my elders, and to this day I still do. That it's not good to sit in a class and just sort of read for yourself. That's Hepech HaTev. Bein Begashmus and Bein B'Ruf. Anyway, whatever. It's particularly it's pushing not derech eretz. After all, I mean, I can just leave you guys on Thursday night and tell you to go to the other mashpia. I'm already old enough for it, believe me. I break my head and my quirks to come down and teach you, at least listen. It come to it. What happened is that the Eden went from that type of matzah. They were in the Mitzrayim and they went into the desert. So what happens in the desert? Also we haven't got Paro, we haven't got all the masses, we haven't got all the shlita of the higher powers of Elam Hazeh ruling over us. We're now in charge of ourselves and we can be spiritual people. We're out here in the desert. Nobody's bothering us. We've got Nane Yaakov. They forget for a minute that Nane Yaakov is L'mayla Mitam V'Dad. This is the Eibishter. And they say, wait a minute, we can have our yeshivas and our learning and all these wondrous things. This is great. This is amazing. This is absolutely a new revelation, a new environment, and a new situation. Completely and utterly something different. A new Golas mentality. Absolutely new ideology. Here we got everything. So therefore the Yidden and their representatives, the Moradim, they said, what do we need this whole business? Moshe Rabbeinu trying to persuade us that really the Abish ones we should go into a place like Eretz Yisrael. We should hold this business with war. It's going to take years, and then who knows what's going to happen in all this massive with the Cananium and all the other peoples that are around. And then Sof goes off. Even if we do come, we're going to have to do it. Agashmi. We're going to have to be a mention in a physical world. Who wants to do that? You tell me, Dira b'takteinim. Who wants takteinim b'klal? Let's live in the alien. Let's be elevated, spiritual, tremendous people. Where are we going to live from? There'll be an anekovid, there'll be man, he seems to be looking after us at Koi. There's a whole new type of Golos mentality. And therefore, to the point that Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm sorry you guys, but that's unbelievable, but that's not really the kavanah. So they said, come on, wasn't it the kavanah? We're spiritual people. Nefesh Elokis, we're very high elevated people. Leave us alone. The kavanah. Who is the kavanah? And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was left on his own. It was only he and the Avish that were talking one to the other. We just took me there. What do we do now? A whole new Golos mentality. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, you got to go over the Yarden, and you got to go down to Israel, and Yemos on the Beis Hamikdash, and Gilui Atzmas. You guys have got only the Gilui, you only got highlights over here. We're going to have to do the Avish himself, Mamish Kipshutei. In other words, at the Mittler Rebbe said if they would have listened to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they would have got Moshe Rabbeinu to go in with them, they wouldn't have brought Moshe Rabbeinu down, never Tzimtzaf, Lachmoni Nitlan, then it would have been the Gula Shlema, and there would have been the Beis Hamikdash Nitzchi. And there would have been Gila Atzmas Ein Seif, Afilu Az Beis Az Ma. In other words, if we want Moshiach now, was the key behind the whole thing. And people said, no, we don't want Moshiach now. We want also to high spirituality of an Ishmaship. Everlasting Beis Hamikdash, with the Eretz Yisrael, with the Maz. Let me be a spiritual Jew, let me alone. What's visible to me? What do you want? I should run out in the street and tell people there's going to be Atzmas Ein Seif. I'll hide myself in under my particular Amana Kobe, and I'll be in my particular Beis Hamikdash, and leave me alone. What is it for me? And Moshe Rabbeinu said, what are we going to do? Man, that's it. And that is the message that comes out of the whole thing. You've got to be very careful not to let the Golos determine your mentality. And the Golos can do that. And it can do it in a very tricky way. Then you can say, look, I'm in a place like, I don't want to mention names. I don't want to imply anything not proper against certain Yidden. I want to say, you got Monsi, the episode, B'nai B'nai, I live in B'nai, I got to be careful. You got it's a beautiful place, and it's mamish gewaldig, and you got all these beautiful basi medrash, and everybody's spiritual, and everybody's Jewish, and everybody comes again, Yid with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, after China about Moshiach, and you're going to go out of all this, and that's nothing, and you're going to go over to Hanani Shemaya, and what's he hacking at China? He was leave us alone, and let's be here, we're good. We got the Beis Hamikdash, and we got the Torah, and we got all the things. We got big rabbis, and they say Chassidus, and they say all sorts of amazing things. Why talks about China and Mashiach? So the unfortunate fact is that that's the Golos mentality also. That the Rebbe's message was that that's also a Golos mentality. And it's like a hemshech of the old Golos. That the Golos really in the deep days of the Golos, in the medieval days, they didn't want a terrible state. They didn't know what the heck. And yet nonetheless they learned Torah, Lishmo, Be'emes Lamita. And now they got over into a place like, all these places that I mentioned. And I said, Teifli Puri, this is good, this is great, it's unbelievable, Nani Shmaya, Nani Akobe, Bati Medrash, Torah, and all the Yerushalayim and Hechshers on the top, and you can go to the shop and buy the best Hechsher and the most unbelievable Kashrus and all those anyway. But that's the whole man, it's Mashiach, that's all. You're crazy. I did a Lubavitch, let him have his few Mishkoyim though. What happens here? That unfortunately, it's crept into the Lubavitch. Oh, unfortunately. What is the in Lubavitch? They said, well, the Rebbe was unbelievably great, he was unbelievable, and he was just so wonderful, and he was our father, and he was our tata, and he was just so great, and everything. Oh, don't make him Meshuggah, don't do that to him. Just print up all of his Maimonim and everything, but don't say that he said all these wild things, to put people off. People think you're crazy. Now that is a terrible golus, because I'm not supposed to think what people are going to say. I'm supposed to think what Moshe Rabbeinu, the Novi Amos, what he said, and then I got to tell these people what they're going to think. And ultimately speaking, they'll be macabre if I say it confidently. And with all love and respect, and with all due respect, I'm taking responsibility now because this is coming over. But in another week or two, if they're going to bring here a certain personality and certain represents a whole thing in Lubavitch, and he's going to sell all the people that you don't talk about Mashiach, you talk about the Hasidus, the lovely Hasidus, the Tzimtzum, and Lifnei Tzimtzum, and Achra Tzimtzum, all of it, that's what you talk about. Mashiach. That'll put all the Peilishes off. All the Peilishes won't like that. And the Litayim for sure not. If I meet up at the Peilishes, I've got to be talking, not to talk anything about Mashiach, not anything. Be careful, because they've got long payers and they're very full and they're very beautiful. You've got to be careful not to tell them too much about the Rebbe, because if you do, they're not going to like it. Now that is a Golus mentality in the worst possible form. I've got to tell what the Rebbe is all about, and I've got to tell the Poilishers what the Rebbe said is the good for the whole Klal Yisrael, and that is that Moshiach is urgent. So people say, oh no, he's not. And in the meantime, the bombs are falling on Ashkelon, because they won't listen to the Navi. They won't listen to him. And from with, they say, oh, I've got my beautiful yeshiva. All these beautiful things, and not only that, I'm in the Knesset, I'm in the other, I got all this, what do you want from me? I've got a lot of it. And if I don't listen to the Lubavitch Rebbe, I'll have even more. If I start listening to him, I'll have to throw away all these miles. And what do you want from me? So you're a Chabadsker, you want to tell me about Chabad? Tell me something that makes nice Chabad, and I'll still be able to do what I'm doing. That's what these people are up to. Never. I don't mean anything bad. I never usually say this thing, but I'm just so upset. I just can't take it anymore. It's just can't go anymore like this. I have to worry about what the Polish is going to think about Chabad. I got to tell him what Chabad is. And Chabad without a Rebbe is not a Chabad. And every generation, every Rebbe, he gave us what to say. We've got to say what our Rebbe said. The Rebbe Rashab is unbelievable, and the Rebbe Rashab founded the yeshiva. But we've got to tell people what our Rebbe said. And we've got to teach them some of how the Rebbe taught some of how we understood some of what was a message, only to reach certain inyana, which is the Gilui Mashiach B'Poel Mami. That's what you've got to tell people. And that's what you tell the Polish Chassidim. But Koledi, to come to the Polish and well, no, we're all sane. We're very sane. We're not like these Mishagoyim. No, we're not like them. We're all very sane. You see, I don't talk about Mashiach. I just say all sorts of wonderful things, lovely things about Chabad, Chassidus, about Tzimtzum, Achra Tzimtzum. You name it, we got it. We'll talk about it. We'll tell you everything you want to know. All the players say, oh, you see, Chabad is really sane. They're not really mad. What are they doing with all these madmen that they got? They're like all these madmen. Get one of them. Throw them out. I wish you were telling I'm Mashiach. Nobody you talk anything more about Mashiach. We don't talk about Mashiach anyway. We're not worried about Mashiach. These Mishagoyim are worried about Mashiach. And the same people in Lubavitch are also not worried about Mashiach. They don't care about Mashiach. Anyway, we're going to change our whole way of life for a few Mishagoyim. But the few Mishagoyim are the people who have the courage to say that the Rebbe said this, that it's printed black and white, that he said it. And you can't avoid it. Or yes, you can. You just don't let them see it. You don't put that part of it. You just keep that away. You don't let the Polishes and the literature, you don't let them see that. Let them just see the old stuff. Rashab, and a bit of the Rebbe, a bit. It'll sort of fit in with the Friedrich Rebbe, for example. Oh, yeah, that's great. Very nice Rebbe. He was the Friedrich Rebbe's son-in-law. I mean, he's great. He's wonderful. Oh, but not Moshiach. The bombs are falling on Ashkelon. Don't forget about the bomb. They shall go to the bombs somewhere. And at Kedikach today, Rabbi Lebanoni couldn't come and teach you guys in Shia. You know why he couldn't come? Because all the truck drivers in Israel stopped all the roads. They wouldn't let any traffic on the roads because they say that the deli costs too much money. The petrol costs too much money. Actually, I'm sorry. I got two answers to that. Aleph, that who said years ago when they made the peace agreement with Mitzrayim, and I was there, the Simchas Torah, the Rebbe spoke about it. That's one of the most difficult Simchas Torahs I've ever had in my whole life, because the Rebbe mamish strayed, something schrecklich. It was just after the so-called Camp David. And the Rebbe said it's a terrible insult to Melech David to call it Camp David. Well, David means the name of David another. David Malach Mashiach. And they went and took the whole ruination of all the Jewish people, plus David Malach Mashiach, and they called it Camp David. Anyway, what did they do? They gave away all the left. They were holding Abu Rodes. And Abu Rodes is to this day a very fruitful source of petrol. It's enough for the whole Eretz Yisrael, and even maybe the Tzalabit. And for the price of petrol would have been today Tapanis. And Eretz Yisrael would have been the cheapest place in the world to buy petrol. Because we had the whole thing. We had the whole Abu Rodes was in our position. And they went and gave it away to the Mitzrayim. And every few days the Mitzrayim were putting the price up more and more and more and more and more. So these poor Mishagoyim, all these truck drivers, they say, at Mosai, how far are we going to have to pay for petrol? That's all because you wouldn't listen to the note. He told you, he shrayed, don't do that. Don't give the Goyim the petrol. You got it, sit on it. Well, who you got to be worried about? Oh, President Pliny, he won't be so pleased. No, what's it? What is? So he won't eat his custard for a couple of nights because it'll be so breakers for the end. That's all he'll do. He may not eat his custard that particular night. You tell me, he won't do anything. On the contrary, he'll only be pleased in the end. Because he likes tough people. Esav likes tough people. Shmatas, he'll tread on you. He sees you're a shmata, he'll walk all over you. And that's exactly what's happening. Give away Eretz Yisrael, give away more Eretz Yisrael. He just walks all over you. The second question is, are these truck drivers, they're saying now, the Rebbe warned them that this was going to happen. He told them clearly, 20 or 30 years ago, that this is what would happen. That you would eventually reach a situation where you wouldn't be able to keep your economy anymore because of the mindset with the petrol. Right. Wouldn't be able to keep it because of the petrol. So the next thing is, I have a shaila. These guys all turned out on the roads today because, you ever heard of the pasuk Ani B'Tzedek Exer Fanel? Have you heard of the word B'Tzedek? Biz to the keshener. The word B'Tzedek is the Rosh Hashanah in Yiddish. Biz to the keshener. As long as you don't get to my pocket. Once you reach my pocket, in other words, I'm friends with you, I'm fine, as long as you don't touch my pocket. Biz to the keshener. That's it. B'Tzedek. Biz to the keshener. If Mamela attaches their pocket, here they are on the road, you stop all the traffic, because never, the bombs are falling on Ashkelon, the whole world is gradually closing in on you all around. Why don't you go out about that? Why don't you go out on the road and complain? When they took all the Yidden of Gush Katif, Yeah, they threw the whole Jewish world in the most terrible sakona. They threw all these Yidden out. To this day, they don't have any home. Why didn't he go out on the Krish about that? It doesn't affect your cash in there. Well, that's the chiddush they get here in this place. And unfortunately, they also look at the Fruma Yidden and they say, well, Fruma Yidden are the same. Because they do everything for their biz to the cash in there. I can get my money from the Knesset, what do I care? And I heard a Polish guy say to me the other day, what's Gate Miragasher? He said, well, I have to worry about all these things. Yeah, he said, I got my yeshiva with my koil. Ach, one in the clock. Hashem Yerachim. And that's exactly what the Meraglim said. They said, oh, here we are now in the desert, and it's all very spiritual, and we're such wonderful people, you know, it's unbelievable, you know. I'll tell you exactly the truth about Eretz Yisrael, but you understand it just the way I really would like you to understand it. Iskei Dibor. Iskei Dibor. And so unfortunately, he didn't bought it. They said, we can't possibly do this, can we? And in the meantime, Kolev says to Rabbeinu, and we can. All we got to do is believe in Hashem and in Moshe. And we can do it. And that's what's going to happen now. All we got to do is believe in the Rebbe and in the Rebbe Melech Moshiach, and know that everything he said is Nevuas and Furashes, and not to be worried about the Polishes. Let them, they'll be fine. They're Yidden, they'll chop after a while, if you just tell them the truth. College, you don't tell them the truth, and you make Lubavitch a nice old-fashioned Lubavitch with its Tzimtzum, before the Tzimtzum, you know, and then have Shabbamis, and have Shabbat, very nice. And Tanya, oh yeah, Tanya's the altar, oh yeah, the Rav, you know, the altar Rebbe, oh yeah, he's holy. Oh, don't tell me about this present Rebbe guy, you know, he's a bit too much, you know, don't talk too much about him, but the altar Rebbe, If I'm the Yisrael, we know we have to talk about the Rebbe, but we have to say, I'm sorry you guys, but Yechi HaMelech HaMoshiach. That's what we're going to do. Have a good evening. I'm sorry I held you all up, but it's very important. This is a very key parsha in understanding a lot of Inyonim and whatever. Hashem Shalom. No?
Yechi Adonai Morin Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Yodam Hai. 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 Yechi Adonai Morin Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Yodam Hai.